So. Supposed to attempt the ablation.
Man, oh man, I hope it works.
Yeah, this is it's better. If you go through good period of time, but it's like
It's not the way that I normally log in. Love it. I'm just gonna take a minute here, if you guys don't mind. I'm gonna just try to log in through my phone just to make sure that someone else
you need to do.
that someone else can log in, just to make sure that there's someone else can.
In the package, log in and do that.
Yeah, I sent it out last week. I sent it out today. I actually sent two out today.
You got enough, you
Yeah.
got an update today, okay.
I sent one out last night, or last week I sent one out. And I sent one out today. Or two out today. Are you getting your emails, Tim? Do you think you got that set? I know you were
No.
having some problems. You never did get that worked out.
I didn't yet.
Okay. You want to step
I-
in? I'm
I
here
have-
tomorrow.
I
You wanna
have your
step in?
computer magic guy.
Okay, they're super helpful.
Yeah.
They were, yeah, they
Yeah.
got.
Yeah, I think everyone here has all had something to do. I'm no idea. I'm currently having to download Zoom, of course, to
No.
that little thing. So if you want to go ahead,
Yep.
I just feel a little uneasy about. And unfortunately, Stephanie is not getting on, so we usually always, you know, for as long as we had Zoom, we've always still gotten onto each other's meetings to always make sure. And so of course tonight was like, hey, Stephanie, I don't think you need to get onto the meeting tonight. I think tonight's gonna be okay. And of course, I'm like, oh, this doesn't look like a normal way. Of course, that's gonna happen on the night that I said, don't worry about getting onto the meeting.
I got this a mess. So there's one here too, at one time. You're button that thing.
Recording in progress.
Okay, I was able to log on, so I'm gonna assume that
Okay,
anyone else can log on.
okay,
Okay, so I think we're good. Thank you. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's no problem.
okay, so tonight's meeting will come to order. And Jennifer, please do the roll call
Carl Walzer.
here.
Lori Fitzgerald. Here. Arlen Kai.
Here.
Steve Jernigan.
Here.
And Tim LeBrun.
Here.
So we have four sets of minutes. July 9th board meeting, July 15th, well, it was even April, the April annual meeting. July 9th board meeting, July 15th work session, and the board of review on July 29th. Any corrections?
So I'm just gonna kind of put in a note here. So the April 16th, those are annual meeting minutes. Those actually get approved at the next
Okay.
annual meeting. So they're actually just in there because I didn't actually, I just hadn't put them in a packet for you guys to look at, and I apologize for that. And I just noticed that, and so I wanted to include them in a packet just so you guys could review them, but they're actually not going to get approved by this board.
Okay.
They won't get approved till the next annual meeting.
Okay,
The
so
rest of the,
we have the three.
yeah, yes.
Okay, so then what we're talking about then is the board meeting, the work session, and then the board of review.
And I apologize, because the board of review minutes were the ones that I put at the very end of the day today. So those were the ones that you probably didn't get a chance, but there was nobody that came in, so they're kind of just more of the agenda. That's in more of those minutes then.
And I would just abstain from those minutes. Even though there's not
No, there was nothing really captured there, but I would abstain, because I was not at that meeting.
We can notice that. So, any other comments, questions, corrections? Okay, then, with the exception of Tim's abstention from that meeting, and without objection, the 3 sets of minutes are approved. Financial report.
So, you can see, I'm gonna, I'd like to just, if you don't mind, I'd just like to point something out on the financial report that I'd like to refer back to, in a little bit later. What I'd like to point out is on page 13 of the financial report. I just want to point out the bottom 3 accounts. They're the LGIP capital account, capital outlay account, the LGIP cultural and recreation account, and the LGIP highway equipment account. Why I want to point those accounts out to you is I'm going to refer back to them when we start to talk about the fire. I wasn't at the meeting, but there was some discussion about there being some funds left over. We were given some funds when they were left over, and these were 3 funds that were created from some fire money that we were given. So I just wanted to point those out. Given back, yes. So I just want to point these out, so when I refer back to them, you can see where they are on that. These are 3 bank accounts. So these are actually bank accounts we get bank statements from. So they're money in a bank account with the bank account name. Okay. And then we would have the last payment that we would have made to Ed Hefty. That would be part of the payment fund, the vouchers.
That was
So-
like 21,000 something.
Yep, that would be the last one. And then the urban forest would be another one that we paid for the tree removal for Crestwood. Yep,
And that was like 56. Is that what we were expecting?
that was
We-
1,200.
Full.
Yeah, 1,200.
What was?
Arbor Systems was 56.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yes, Arbor Systems was,
Says Hillcrest, Delco Valley, Locust Grove.
yes, that was road work for things that were done on the road, things the guys couldn't do on the road.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Things that guys could do. So, and then fire dues came, so fire dues are money that comes to us and then we pay out to fire districts.
Any other questions about the report or update or payment vouchers? Okay, without objection, the financial report, loan update, and payment vouchers are approved. Public comments, you here for public comments?
And
And I don't remember your name,
sure, yeah, it's Nick Rivera.
Mr. Rivera, yeah, thank you.
Nice to see you all. So this is about the CSM that I submitted for application on. It was a while back to add an additional lot into our property. And I went to the Dane County ZLR meeting, and it seems like the recommendation from the town was to deny, which they did, the CSM. There's so this is the CSM. And what I'm wondering here is how we can move forward and accommodate this, and if this is on the agenda for the joint meeting that's happening in a couple of weeks. Because I did note that the two reasons that were cited for denial in the town comprehensive plan don't actually apply to this situation. The one thing that was cited was that there needs to be a minimum of 4 acres. And that was out of the opportunities for development. What it actually says in the town comprehensive plan is it just notes how many 4-acre parcels there are. It does not actually say that 4 acres are required. It says that 2 acres minimum are required, but not that you need to have 4. It also says, the other reason was that no more lots will be allowed as under the current configuration. But that excerpt was taken from a larger paragraph that only applies to lots between 1 and 2 acres that were created before 1994, December of 1994. Our lots were all above 2 acres. And I think that part of the town comprehensive plan was created to prevent people who have, say, 5.5 acres from creating a 1.5 acre parcel, which is between 1 and 2 acres, and a 4-acre parcel, and then dividing the 4-acre parcel. But we have over 6 acres total, and we're trying to turn them into 3 2-acre parcels, which does seem to abide by the town comprehensive plan. So I know it's not on the agenda tonight, but I was hoping to have an audience with you to talk about this and hopefully come to some kind of resolution. I know that in the previous town comprehensive plan, it was reflected that there needs to be a 4-acre minimum, but that does not exist in the current town comprehensive plan. And our family has made, decisions and investments in this property, reading this literature and obviously coming to that conclusion based on what it says, which is not that that's a requirement. Here's the.
Can I just set expectations for tonight? Because you're appearing in the public comment section and because it's not on the agenda, we can't really have an in-depth discussion. We can't take any action or anything like that. Sure. I think what we can probably do, is it on the agenda for anywhere at this point?
No.
Okay, so my initial reaction is that it would go to the plan commission next. My initial reaction is that Mr. Rivera would go back to the plan commission. Does that seem logical?
That seems logical, yes.
Okay, so then we want to get, and I don't know that it's. the right thing
So
for the
when
joint
they
meeting,
submit an application, what we require them to do is we require them to submit the application that they submit to the county, and we require them to submit the application, the town's application. So you submitted the town's application, so you also have to submit the county application. So you didn't submit the county application to us. So you have to submit both pieces to us.
Okay, you told me that was something that you got from the county. And you and Stephanie both told me that if I got this paperwork in by the beginning of July, that I would be on the next plan commission. So you're putting that back on me when you actually instructed me and told me these certain things that I have done I've been very good about getting things on time. And I feel like what I have been petitioning for has not really been looked after in any sort of way, because I got the paperwork in on time. And you told me that that you would get that information from the county.
So Stephanie told you had to have both pieces. And she told me that she told you that you brought in the pieces. You came in when I was here and I said, I don't take this, Stephanie takes it. She said, he brought that in. He said she didn't have both pieces. If you want it on the agenda, we can put it on the agenda for August 20th. That's not a problem. You have a denial from the county. If it comes to the town, if it gets denied, as long as you understand that the application fee cannot be refunded.
Okay. Yeah, I understand that, but I feel like I'm not getting a fair look at this, because you all had a conversation behind closed doors with Brian Standing after he issued a memo saying that he thinks that this does abide by the town comprehensive plan. He said that twice. He said that in an email back when I wanted to use an ADU in my barn. And he said that this should be able to be 3. And then for some reason, after this conversation, the whole narrative has changed. And I came to the plan commission and I said specifically, I want to turn this into 3. And the first step was remove the restrictive note. So that was voted on by both bodies to remove the restrictive note on the CSM so that I could do this. So I feel like I'm being led in one direction and then I'm getting pushback every time I come in here and I talk to you and Stephanie about doing this thing, because I've tried really hard to go through all of the motions and do everything by the book and abide by everybody's rules. And it's always, well, you didn't get this in, or Stephanie's on vacation, or like the town doesn't grind to a halt when somebody goes on vacation. Notices can still go out. So I just don't, okay, let's put it on the, if it can be on the 20th agenda, let's put it on the 20th agenda. I would really appreciate the time, all of your time to talk about this, because I would like to be able to advocate for myself and for this plan, which I do think is in accordance with the comprehensive plan, and have my opportunity to develop this in the way that we really want to.
Okay, so we'll get you on the agenda.
Okay.
And then Jennifer, do we know, do we check with Stephanie tomorrow and say, okay, what documents do we have and what do we need? Or are you fairly certain that we're still missing?
No, it's. We can get the documents. The problem is that typically if somebody comes and there is a chance that the town will deny it, we typically do not want to take someone's money
Right.
if we feel like they're not going to get an approval. It's just not something we want to do. So we really want to give the applicant the opportunity to say, hey, if you're not going to get approval, do you want to spend the money? But if the applicant wants to, it's their prerogative. So if he wants to,
Yep. Okay, so let's
Yeah.
set the agenda
Yeah.
and then
absolutely.
I think that's the most we can do tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if without talking about it, I don't feel like I've had my fair shake. I also don't think that it doesn't open the door for me to appeal this. So
Yep.
without any kind of, official talking about it, I'm left here wondering what's going on.
And that's what we're setting
Yeah,
up.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what we're setting up for you.
Okay,
And I think that's about, there's also sort of a time limit on the public comments
okay,
per
yeah,
resident, so we should probably wrap it up.
sure.
But it sounds like you should be all set on the agenda, and then we'll regroup and discuss it then.
This will be on the 20th.
Yes, it'll be on August 20th.
Okay,
6 o'clock.
Yep, at 6.
all right, great.
I mean, it will be like, it's gonna be. Yeah, it'll be 6 o'clock, but there's gonna be kind of like, it's gonna be a back and forth because we have. And kind of a little bit of a convoluted back and forth because we
fine.
have another one, so.
I'll be here at
Yeah.
6.
Yeah.
So, all right, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That's 20th, at 6 o'clock.
You'll see it later in the agenda. We'll talk a little bit about how that's gonna work, that meeting.
So I heard it was denied here and at the county.
That's not true that it was denied here. He said that it was not denied here.
Okay.
It was
But
not
it's denied at the county
heard. It was denied at the county. Yes,
because of a rule he doesn't think exists.
yes.
Where is that property? Just out of curiosity.
It is, should we just talk about it maybe closer to like?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
no, that's right.
Okay, let's move on to the next item, and that's the fire and EMS reports, and I have got nothing really for Belleville. I can't remember if we talked about this, but Mike Frukowski is going to represent the town. We talked about it last time, and the next meeting for Belleville is next month. So I need to I'll get him the information.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask if Mike had all the info.
No, he doesn't have, I'll get it to him. Brooklyn?
We had a good meeting and went a lot longer than it should have, in my opinion. there was a lot of discussion about the, what is the name of the report again that each district sends into us?
Maintenance of effort.
Yes, the maintenance of effort. There's a lot of discussion around the maintenance of effort. Specifically that law enforcement has a similar maintenance of effort reporting structure. If the community size is of 20,000 people or more. And they're wondering why this isn't being handled the same way. And so the chair put together a letter to send off to the correct parties who put this requirement in place to air their perspective, out the district's perspective. And so they provided a copy of that letter. We had some discussion around what was all included in that. And we redrafted a small portion of that letter. And he was going to get it back. He was going to get it out to whoever was our representative on that board who decided it was important to get that effort in place. Because everybody in the meeting agrees that it's there's a fair amount of gray that we're asking people to not just report on, but sign off on. And everybody is anxious about losing funding if they don't do it right. And why are we doing this with such a small population to begin with? Yes.
It's a good question. What would the powers that be that set this up?
Yes.
That's what let's discuss on fire.
Yes. So there's action being taken. Bottom line.
Okay.
Secondly, they talked about Lexipol, which has been on the agenda for apparently a long time.
It's about 6 months.
They have decided to table that and set it aside, and we're done talking about it for now. It's very expensive. Nothing's happening. There's a growing feeling that we're being sold something, and they decided, we're done discussing it for
Yeah.
now.
As far as I know, people. I think the Maple Bluff
Yes,
maybe it's a service once. And the only people.
And
Yes.
could you just recap what Lexipol is?
Lexipol is a consulting organization,
Okay.
really. It's a
Okay.
private
Private consult.
consulting organization that helps districts put policies in place, best practice policies and things like that. That's my understanding of it. I'm kind of jumping into the pool in the middle of the swim.
Yes, right.
That's I guess that's as good of a definition as.
Yes, it's very expensive,
Right.
and it feels like,
And does it come with it some kind of certification or seal of approval, like,
other than references,
uh,
which happen to be Maple Bluff at this point.
Yes.
No.
And I think they just didn't want something.
Yeah, but I think they're using Maple Bluff to make calls to independent fire districts to help sell this. It's a weird.
Well, it's weird they would go into a very property rich area such as that to try to sell it to Rutland.
Yes,
So
exactly. So such a different.
different demographic?
Yeah. So anyway, they're setting that aside. It's not gonna
But
be.
it's not anything that's required
No,
or
it is not.
it's just that this is a
It's a
best
consulting service.
best practice to hire this consultant.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
All right, thank you. Oregon, I was not at that meeting, unfortunately, but I asked both Glenn and Jason to send me the minutes. They did. I would do the best I can. And they did have a couple of fire personnel. They swore in. It's happened quite often. It's really a great training ground for those going into fire EMS service, and they're and I think they've gotten a lot of personnel from things like this. I know that the chief, sorry, it's kind of spotty. The chiefs have shared information from his chief's report. I did not get a copy of that. They go over monthly financial statements every time. And as far as time I've been on there, my Chief Myers pretty much spot on. His financial reports are pretty clean. Tim Higgins moved to approve $106,000 in vouchers. I'm not sure what that means. Find out. New business, they reviewed workers' compensation insurance for 24-25, and Chief recommended approval of package of $27,880. Again, this is spotty. That was seconded and approved unanimously. They reviewed their fund balance following acceptance of the 2023 audit process. Fire chief recommended approval. Downtown Study Group requests a meeting with, I had a call from the chief there on the Downtown Study Group. Having a meeting with the Oregon Area Fire Department reps, and Glenn wants direction on who the commission would like to attend. So far, it'll be the fire commission attending. Participating municipality boards, any member of the fire EMS station building committee. I know he asked me if I think a smaller or a larger committee is best. I said I think the more the merrier. And I just recommended that there needs to be a moderator that's very good about it, because this meeting should be interesting. There'll be that needs to have a moderator that's very experienced with sticking to the point, having things move on. And I'm sure that will happen. Next meeting is September 5th.
Should we talk about the joint meeting?
Oh, well, let me add two things now. Sure. There are a couple events coming up. There's a all-day event coming up 16th that they'll be selling soda and hot dogs, kind of a fundraiser thing down at the fire station.
Is that safety day?
I think so, and I'll be there. I'll be there quite a bit of that day. Not sure what he wants to do, sell hot dogs, whatever. That's fine. And then there's a celebration, the 130th fire event. For the celebration will be the 25th. That's a Sunday from 2:30 to 7:30. It's you're good. See my scribble.
Thank you. Let's talk about the joint meeting, the joint Oregon meeting. And so Jennifer, I think the main takeaway, at least for me, was the Martin presentation, and that there seemed to be a benefit to working with that exception if it's an available exception for the levy limits. Do we already do that for Brooklyn?
From what I understand, if I understand from what I looked at the packet, is so what they're suggesting is that there's the 2% plus CPI, right? So they're suggesting that they're going to stay within that,
Right.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that we would all be able to use that in our levy, correct?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, we do that.
Okay, we do that already,
Yes, that's correct.
but we haven't been able to do with Oregon because they don't
Stay within them.
They don't stay within the limits. Okay.
They don't.
So they don't always, or they haven't
They-
historically stayed within those limits.
Correct.
Stay
Within the CPI plus 2% limit.
Okay, so they keep on jumping greater.
Asking for
Yeah,
more.
yeah. And even Martin made the observation that, hey, it looks like it's gonna work for this reporting period, but it might not work in
For other,
future.
yeah.
So it
it's
seems
a
like the
year
type-
by year.
It's the type of thing where we can maybe take advantage of it now and not so much, and not guaranteed in the future. But it seems like I don't see a huge downside to it. Other than, and I'm not sure if it's a downside, but it'll affect people's tax bills. To some degree, I don't know what the dollar amount would be. But I don't even know that we need to sort it out right now. I think in the meeting, I think it was I'm not sure if it was Martin was talking about this or not, but there has to be a resolution to participate. And even if the joint group, the joint district board agrees and signs off on a resolution, does not mean that the individual municipalities have to participate.
So we each individually have to pass a resolution, so that means so what I have in your packet is what we passed for Brooklyn. So that would be on page. For the resolutions we would have passed for Brooklyn are page 64 and 65 of your packet. So for Brooklyn, we passed a separate resolution for fire and we passed a separate resolution for EMS. So that's why there are two for Brooklyn, okay? So again, yes, everyone would have to pass that at their own separate board meetings, okay?
Okay.
So then how that looks on our levy limit worksheet would be, if you go back to page 57 in your packet, that's the town of Oregon's, that's the levy limit worksheet. This is kind of the meat and potatoes of what we're actually talking about. And this levy limit worksheet comes to us, and this is why levy limits are so important. It comes to you as a worksheet that's like basically pre-filled, so you can't change these numbers. What you can change is on page 58 is these numbers that you can change that are very, very, very specific. And you can see page 58, line item I, adjustments to 2023 payable 2024 levy for increase in charges assessed by a joint fire department or a joint emergency medical services district. And you can see $4,172. You can also see on page 59 where I have to attach those resolutions. So I have to attach the resolutions, not just our resolution. I have to attach a resolution for all of the joint districts. So if you turn to the page 61, you can see where you have to have one person, and that one person happens to be the clerk for the Village of Brooklyn. She kind of is the collector of all of those and then distributes those, because you have to have someone who's doing that so that when we're getting ready, we have everyone's that, you know, is collecting those. You can see on page 62 and 63, you know, how we're able to calculate basically, you know, what our numbers were from 23 to 24, how we're getting that $4,172 basically. It's also, Linda has listed it for us there, but, and she kind of goes through her email. She's like, you know, the total was 7.2, happened to be, you know, we are allowed 7.5. So this kind of walks through what we're doing, and that's kind of an example of what we're doing with what I think Martin is explaining, how we're doing it. It's a little different because the way that Oregon has been doing it is they are kind of doing this where their budgets are, hey, we've created this operating budget, and hey, we've now created this capital budget, and they've created these two different budgets. And Brooklyn doesn't do it. It's one budget,
right?
Capital and operating are one budget. So that's the difference.
And I don't remember Mark ever saying, or anybody on the district board saying, oh, the village is gonna draft the resolution or the district will work with the village. So I don't know where the documents are gonna come from. I assume the village.
Pretty standard. I mean, you could pretty much take the wording on the one that, you know, we have in here, and it's pretty standard that we all could just, you know.
Okay.
I don't think the wording really matters. We all just pretty much have to have, you know, similar wording.
Did anybody catch on for the September 25th meeting? Was that going to be when resolutions were due back to them, or were they going to distribute forms to sign?
They wanted to have a vote that evening, is my understanding.
But that's after they have all the resolutions in hand, right? they wanted to have a vote on the joint budget. Having all the resolutions in hand with this calculation,
In the joint budget.
yes. The joint budget. But let's make sure we understand how the joint budget is not jointly arrived at. It is just jointly shared in. So, so it is assessed.
Right, it's.
It is allocated or assessed to us. It is not built by us.
Right,
Are we all on the same?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
my understanding.
oh, absolutely.
So we were being told,
Yes,
We got our
so,
bill.
yeah.
so Jennifer, just so I understand, again, these are from 2023. And this worksheet, the levy limit worksheet,
Yeah,
on page 58
yes,
is the increase, not the exception amount. Is that right? That's the increase from last year's budget, 22's budget?
it's the increase, it's not, it is the increase from 2022 to
Yes.
2020, I'm sorry, 2023. We always, it always is, it's always hard because you're always working in,
That's right.
like a little bit of arrears, right?
Yes,
So it's the 2023 to 2024 budget,
Yeah.
right? And so you can add the increase as long as it's within that CPI plus 2%. So 4,142 is the increase from 2023 budget to 2024 budget.
right.
Yep, and we can add that on to the levy, our levy,
Okay,
yes.
all right.
So that is the increase to our levy that we can take,
Okay.
yes.
And that doesn't pertain to the exception. That is just the increase. That's it.
Yes,
As
so,
long as it's under, fill in the blank, that CPI plus 2% calculation.
Yeah.
We can add that to our levy.
yeah, so then what that means is you're taking $4,172 and out of our 1,200 taxpayers, that is getting distributed between them. So they are all owing a portion of that $4,172.
Yes.
Does that make sense to everyone? So we're able to add that on.
Okay.
And that is what they call a permanent increase.
Yes.
So that is ongoing. So that is not an exception. So like when when you look at the line item E on that same page 58, that is our debt, right? That is how much we paid in debt payments. That's how much we make, every year we have to make a debt payment. That is what I would say would be kind of like an exception. That can fluctuate.
Varies.
Yes,
Yeah.
it fluctuates, and that's going to go away, that I add on, and so that is an exception, so.
So for Brooklyn, we're paying 302,000, or this is for,
That's a debt payment, that 302 is a debt payment, that's how much we make in debt payments, that's how much we pay in.
that's annual payment.
Yes,
And then
So we we add that on to our levy, so all of our taxpayers pay a portion of our debt payment, right? They'll pay a portion of that.
Okay.
But it doesn't get added on to our levy permanently. It's added on for 1 year, but it doesn't get added, it's not a permanent increase for our levy.
It's just.
It's just for that year, yeah.
and that 302,000 pays debt to Brooklyn?
No,
All three.
For our, like, when we have our road work, all of the loans that we're paying for our road work.
there's no direct connection with the fire and EMS.
Okay,
That's
that's
what I'm still. It's the total of loan payments for that.
If you looked back on here, it would be the
No,
loan payments.
I
we're
was
paying,
just,
yeah.
we were talking fire department,
Yeah,
so sorry.
sorry,
I'm still following that train of thought.
yeah.
So Jennifer Martin had, I think it's in the packet, his estimates of what each municipality might have as a dollar amount, and he also was clear in mentioning that's just a rough estimate.
We don't have the CPI calculated yet.
And CPI, so the problem that they have with the CPI too is that it comes out really late, and they've been trying to push that up to be earlier. And so the problem becomes is that everyone's trying to get their budgets done, everyone's trying to get everything set, you're always pushing that out really late, and And that gets really, really, really tight there. So I think that you're sometimes waiting for that CPI number to come out at the same time that you're trying to set these dates of September and things like that. So, okay, so.
I think what they were looking for though, in the meeting, was just buy-in on the concept. It wasn't necessarily committing to a dollar amount of any kind, or, you know, he gave dollar amounts just, I think, as a ballpark figure and for discussion. But it's really about, I think the next step is just getting the resolution signed, approved and signed. And then the September 25th, I think, is the way I took it. Keith, what am I missing? Okay.
A question, one of the big things they were having was that they have their capital fund, or that reserve fund,
Yes, the reserve fund. That's
that
the money
is,
left over.
that's too,
Each
that
year
has
that
too,
it
that has too
accumulates.
much into it.
Yes.
Okay, so
Now,
let's
if I'm
talk
looking
about
at
from
that supposed refund back into the thing, is that going to help them come into this within the eCPI?
So on page 66,
66?
yeah. You know how they say like everything repeats itself?
Yeah, history repeats.
Yeah, so in 2005, guess what? Fire department had too much money in their savings account. And guess what they did? They gave it back to us. And so those 3 accounts that I was telling you about before. Okay, so well, what do we do when they gave us back $100,000? I don't know. Well, at the time we put it in a CD because that's what we did at the time, because that's what CDs, you know, you put it in CDs. So.
Put it back in savings.
Yeah,
Essentially.
well, yeah. So, okay, so you will see that in, you know, then they gave us back $100,000. Well, then in 2007, you'll see that we then went up to 136,000, because guess what? Then they didn't have any money. Then they didn't have any money, so we went from paying 88,000 one year to paying 136,000 the next year because they all of a sudden didn't have any money. So, and then from there, you can kind of just see how we gradually just started to kind of, as you can tell, just started paying more and more and more and more money each year. So eventually you can see at the bottom, so the fire dues CD eventually in 2019, that CD matured. In 2019, interest rates were just kind of a mess, and CDs were not really earning anything in terms of interest. And we just sort of took that money at that time and we created those 3 LGIP accounts, because at that time that was earning the best interest rate at the time. So that's why I wanted to point that out to you. And that's where that money went to. We did take, there is a shed out in our parking lot. And so the only time that money has been touched was 14,300 was spent to re-tin that. So there was a portion of that money used for re-tinning that building, but for by and large, most of that money has been retained. It just was kind of allocated in a different way. But for most of the time, it was kept in what was called a fire dues, which is not really, but for lack of a better word, that's kind of what we labeled it. So
those 3 accounts today total about $97,000, $98,000. So it was, when we put it in, it was 91,440 in 2005, and there's about $97,000 that is divided up into, earmarked into 3 separate funds today on our balance sheet. So the money's still there, bottom line.
But
yeah,
that we have from previous true up.
From the one true up in 2005.
yeah, it was, hey, the fire department has too much, what they're telling you today.
Yeah.
We shouldn't keep this much money. The fire department shouldn't have this much money. We're having too much money. Well, we did an audit. We can't have this much money. We're giving it back to you. Okay. So they gave it back to us and we kept it and we have it. So it's kind of the same thing. I wasn't at the meeting, but it sounds like that was kind of the same thing that they said to you.
But they are resisting giving it back this time.
Yes, yes.
They
Yeah.
they had a lot of words to tell us,
A lot of.
Don't expect-
stuff.
don't expect this back.
That's what I heard no true up.
Yes,
I don't hear that phrase at all.
because they are working towards
They
this
said that.
quote unquote big expense in 2027.
Yes, yeah.
And they want to retain that money to get a running start into that expense. Well, they didn't name that expense, but we have an idea of what that expense is. Their auditors came back, as you heard, their auditors came back and said, you gotta do something about all this extra money you have in your account, because people will start to think you're taxing too much. And so,
Are there rules or anything other than public sentiment that drive these decisions that we have too much money?
well, the auditor,
The auditors practice,
best practices, yeah,
but it seems like it's always kind of not clear why all of a sudden we gotta do this.
Yeah.
It's coming, there's pressure coming from other places.
and again, it just comes as a recommendation, not a requirement.
Yeah, and so there's no rule that says once your fund exceeds such a percentage of that it has to be.
And that percentage, as they said, was between 20% and 30%.
Yes.
And
yeah,
today they have a fair amount more than that.
right.
Which is money that didn't get spent, which it's not like it didn't get spent because we didn't build the building yet. It didn't get spent because we didn't deliver the service this year, which you can't go back and deliver an
Right.
emergent,
Well, and they can
emergency service.
control how much service they deliver every
Right.
year.
Yes. But I assure you, if they go over their budget, they're going to assess that to us, as we can see in this historical account.
You mentioned that Brooklyn has their operating and capital budget all in the same, all together.
Yeah, and in this example that I have here for Oregon, I've combined them into,
Yeah, that's what-
into one column. When I put them there. So,
Okay.
so yes, yes.
That was the question.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah, so I combined the numbers, but Brooklyn has fire and EMS and I separate them out because I actually still write them out two different checks.
Yes, and I have the two
So-
income statements.
Yeah.
For their EMS and their fire department. They do keep track of them separately.
Yeah,
It is not a joint fund.
yeah, and truthfully, like I had mentioned sort of briefly before that, we ever wanted to sort of take fire out of our property tax bill and add it on as a special charge, there's a route to do that and you can't do that for, anyways.
That's the
You
exception.
can't do it for EMS, right?
You can do it for EMS, but you want them to be separated. We need
Oh, I
them
see
to
what
be
you're saying.
separated. So
Got it.
anyways, it's a different topic that I don't want to talk about now, but anyways, I just wanted to present this to you because history repeats itself and that has
Yeah,
happened in the
interesting.
past and well, you just may want to consider because
So we have a little pool of money that
Yeah,
is been sitting around for.
reason is as you're talking here today, we also didn't want to have money sitting around that we also weren't earmarking for a purpose. And I think in 2019, there was this idea that we also wanted to have the money earmarked for something, which is why we created those 3 LGIP accounts, where we wanted to say, hey, we know that there's some money sitting if we had some capital improvements like the office, like things, the building, things that were going to happen.
Right.
We, the highway equipment, an equipment fund, if something were to happen, the retinning of the shed, the cultural, the $2,200 that there was just kind of an idea if there were things that, needed. I can't really speak to exactly what that was.
But other than
That
the
would be a
retin-
Steve Brook question, but that was kind of.
But other than the retinning of the shed, there hasn't really been a major drawdown
for any of those three, has there?
There hasn't been, but the idea is that
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 could
would
be
be,
there.
yes, that the purpose is that was what they were going to be used for.
Because they're earmarked now. And the challenge the Oregon Fire Commission has is that money is sitting there and it's not earmarked for anything.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
That is one of their big challenges,
Mhm.
according to their.
Because
Auditor.
because I just can't hold on to taxpayer money.
Right, for
X
when
amount
there
of
isn't a
Right.
purpose.
Right.
And Jennifer's saying, we at least created a purpose
Right.
for that money. It's in these three funds.
It's better than sitting in something called
Yes.
fire dues, because
Right.
what does that
Yeah,
mean?
right.
What does that mean?
Right.
That means nothing. So you had to we had to have a purpose. I mean, I think our idea is to say, we need a purpose for funds that we have sitting there, because that makes no sense. I think for a while, we were like, are they going to call back these funds?
Yes.
I think that's what we thought for a while.
That's what they always had with the senior center true up in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every year.
Well,
So I think after a while, we're like, no, we need to kind of put, and we know there's things that we're failing, so.
yeah, as we talk in our next budget meetings, we should talk about these accounts, these three accounts, and it's kind of a shame to just have the money sitting there.
Sure.
We should do something with it.
Mhm.
So anyway, not tonight, but so I think unless somebody has more questions, comments, I think if you can track down a resolution document, either that everybody's using or that you think is acceptable to use, then for our September meeting, should we get that on the agenda and approve it and sign it?
I think we should really wait for the village to take the lead. I would suspect, just like the Village of Brooklyn, I think they should be taking the lead because they should be sending out what they want everyone to do. I would suspect the village will be taking the
Okay,
lead. I
that's
would suspect the village will have their attorneys be drafting something and would be sending out something that they.
Okay.
And is that
That's
what they've done in advance?
I don't know, because the Village of Oregon has never done it before, but the Village of Brooklyn has been the one that's kind of been,
Okay.
has been the one that's always led it for us
That makes sense.
in the past, because they're just the biggest entity of that district, and so
Okay.
I mean, I would always take the backseat approach to what's going on. I guess I was a little confused, and maybe somebody can help me out, because reading it, I was confused with this $9,000, and how is Martin coming up with that between,
Where's that? Right there. On page 41. Which is the summary, the operating change summary plus the capital
Yeah.
change summary is a total change of 9836.
so, and then I thought we went into so it was on page 45, there was these scenarios. And it was a little that was where I was a little confused as to how maybe he was explaining it. And I suppose there's probably, I could watch a video. There was a debt scenario, a levy scenario, a levy to debt
Yeah.
scenario,
We should watch the video.
debt to levy scenario.
Yeah, I think he gave, I'm not gonna be able to.
Was he suggesting that there was some borrowing involved, and then?
I think he was just giving all the possibilities, and some of them were, I think he said something like, okay, nobody's gonna do this one, but you're showing it. I don't know which one is, I assume that was the debt scenario.
So, I mean, okay, so what I'm
That's a bad recap.
what I'm suggesting, so what I look at, so for example, for this year, looking at 2024 from page 45, what we did was we borrowed $80,000. So we borrowed that $80,724. So again, $80,000 is what we borrowed. We added that. So that 302 that you asked about, part of that is $80,000 we borrowed. That number right there. That was in that 300. So when you talk about the impact to our taxpayers, that $80,000 is built in there, okay? So you look at the number next to it, that 27,000. So we would then, if we would be on that same trend, we would be borrowing 27 instead of 80, right? Follow me? Okay, so we're gonna be borrowing about $60,000 less, right? But we somehow have to make up for that in our capital. Okay?
When we,
So you don't borrow for operating expenses. You don't wanna borrow for operating expenses.
And this is considered an operating expense.
So
Our allocation from the fire is an annual expense, it's an operating expense. So what they're doing here in these scenarios is saying, well, so here's how you can come up with the additional money. You can borrow them, you can levy the money. But your taxes are gonna go up $63,000 this year divided by the number of households.
But I can't, but I can't raise the levy I can't raise the levy without borrowing. I can't add 60, like that levy, like the worksheet, it comes pre-filled. Remember, we can't do it, the only thing I can do is borrow, so remember, we don't want to get into a position where we're borrowing for operating expenses.
Right.
So when I look at that, I'm confused, I'm trying to figure that. So that's why that capital and the operating are like mixed match for me.
does it make sense for some or most or all of us to have a call or a meeting with Mark?
Well, I think I understand, but I'm trying to just understand. I mean, I think I get it. I guess I don't know. I mean, so what I'm understanding is the $100,000 that they talked about for the services for the,
Planning.
yes,
The new
Right.
station,
yes. Would it,
is that operating or capital?
The,
The planning, consultants.
oh, the $100,000.
For researching the station, is that operating or?
Well, they were having more than the new station. There was some.
Oh, there was long range plan?
There's some long range plan. There was some other
For,
administrative plan that in there too, but primarily it was still building
Yeah,
and equipment.
technically, if they're doing this consulting toward an effort of building something, it's part of the building cost, it's a capital cost. It's a capital cost. Typically, it's not an operating.
Part of the project.
Right, it's part of the project, because when the project's gone, the cost isn't there.
it's embedded in total cost,
Yes,
so.
exactly.
so I'm just curious as to like maybe how that could be arranged a little, it's just, that's an impact. I think our budget's relatively small, but an impact like that is pretty important. It's gonna impact our budget that's a big for us. That's a big number. It might not be big for us, but that's really big for us. So I just want to point that out, that waiting into September we might need to have a conversation with them ahead of time of how that could work better for us. Could there be some navigating of how the numbers work better in our favor? Could we work something out, that into a capital?
And that's why I'm suggesting that we talk to Mark.
Yeah.
Just, let's.
Is there any other way that we could do that?
It's kind of hard to like interpret whatever he was thinking to put this together.
That's why I was asking.
It's estimates, and he said that it was estimates, so he may be farther along if we, a week from now or 2 weeks from now.
Well, until CPI.
That's
true. Right. It's always gonna be estimates until CPI is locked in and it's, oh, that's what it is, plus 2%. Let's run the numbers.
But if we type this into our budget now, like if I just were to type these in, these operating expenses, it's gonna be and then that 302 number is gonna fluctuate, our borrowing.
Right.
Nice to get that to be a little bit more. Okay.
I was a little bit confused on kind of the continuation of what this was. And I was trying to ferret out what the increase in the operating budget that they were anticipating to propose or impose upon us. And this was the only one that seemed to have that 60,000 bump from 24 to 25 for the operating costs. Like that was what they were targeting. And the debt finance and the capital thing, I get the sense they were trying to use their excess funds in there to be paying down the
To buy
capital.
that down, to
Buy
buy
down the
that,
capital for the
Yes.
1 year.
yes, sure.
And then next year, then 26, it's right back there.
Right.
So it was,
Can they give it back to us? I mean, I don't know. Like, can they give it back to us? And then I don't know. It's gonna be tough.
I don't think they give, I think what they're saying is they're not gonna give it back to us, they're just going to reduce their
Yeah.
assessment to us this year. Offset by some of those fund balances.
Yeah.
But next year, expect it to be back because they won't have fund balances to allocate against it.
Correct, that's my recollection.
Yes.
The problem we're gonna have is like, we're gonna have a hard time keeping our tax rate because because we're not gonna borrow, then we're gonna borrow this year and we're gonna have to borrow and we're gonna have to I don't know how that's gonna work. You're going to push into your road budget.
yep,
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, this is where there's just to be aware, so just to be.
it's horrible.
Did
It's our road budget.
I say your road budget?
It's your
Did I say
turn.
our road budget?
Well,
Sorry.
And again, they're queuing this up
Yes,
for this big expense in
Yes.
27.
And
Yes.
and that's in your sequel.
Yes.
It would be better if it were a little bit more gradual in the world of property tax payments.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's great. Okay, so we'll talk more about it.
One last thing, what is interesting to me is they approved a budget of $100,000 for this consultant. But then came right back and said, but we think we can get it done for 40.
A consultant?
Yes,
It is,
Yes,
Yes.
it's almost a number they threw out there. It's totally a number they threw out
they
there.
just had
Not
a plug figure.
Yes.
Yeah.
To set aside, because that's going to be included in the operating budget, is that $100,000 or one of those budgets. That 100,000, even though their plan is probably spend 40.
Okay, is that something that's routinely done? I mean, I get that you cannot predict exactly how much you're gonna spend in
Right.
each category, but it sounds like a little bit of kind of a little, what do they call it, shell game or,
Well.
yeah. I'm just
Or
saying.
it's you don't wanna go back for a second approval.
Right.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, the scale of the numbers may differ, but we've done that. We've said, okay, up to this dollar amount.
But this is
We don't-
2.5x of what they think it's gonna
No,
cost.
no, I said the scale of it.
Yes, yes, the scale.
I did the scale.
Suggesting kind of that it's a little excessive. A little more than just good practice.
Yes.
Seems like they could have got a tighter estimate.
Because they're going to lower our assessments with the fund balance.
To keep
But
us.
during the year, they're gonna collect $100,000 for a $40,000 expense. And fill that right back up.
I would advocate to push back on that because it's gonna be really tough for the town. 63,000 is gonna be tough for the town. I would advocate that you could see if they could come down a little bit to 50 in the budget. And they're set aside and see if you could say, hey, can you come back to us throughout the year? And if you need more money, maybe we can talk at that time.
I think they've already approved it, haven't they? Oh, no, they haven't, of course. they haven't.
Well, the board has to approve
But
it.
yes,
Like the
right.
town board has to approve it. They can't do anything without this town board approving it. Because Because I'm not sure, I think we fund everything at 100%. I don't know if the village funds it at 100% as well, I would thought it did as well.
Sure.
Do you, what's the name again from Don?
Kathy Hatzlinger.
Kathy, is she the one who asked the?
About the
The
ladder
ladder.
truck?
Yes.
Yeah.
You have a good relationship with her?
Yeah.
Could you talk to her a little
Yeah.
bit about her perspective from that meeting?
She called me the day of, and she's like, well, what do you think? And I was like, I mean, here is, in a nutshell, this is where the town's at. Our population is not growing. We are at the exact same population that we were. So in terms of needing a new fire station, we don't need one. Dunn doesn't need one. The only people that really need a bigger fire station is the Village of Oregon, right? We have to agree that it's not needing a bigger fire station.
And I think Kathy was chiming in about the ladder.
Yeah.
But they go hand in hand.
No,
We
that's what I'm
need a
saying
new
is that
fire
they're the same
station, if
thing.
we get a new ladder,
Right,
and we need a new ladder
for big, yeah.
for a bigger project, bigger than what we have
But her
today.
comment was good about Stoughton, I think she was
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
that,
They cut a deal.
Stoughton, yeah, the
They don't
smaller.
have to- They didn't have to pay, they took that off their
I'm telling you,
assessment.
we have to make sure that they know that we are aware of that. So that when they're putting their 27 wish list together, they are funding more of it than what they think today,
Yes.
without question, because we're gonna take that option. We don't need a ladder truck.
We have to.
And it's just gonna cost more and more.
Yeah.
I'm envisioning a scenario like the new jail.
Yeah, yes,
Sure.
That's just been a nightmare. This could be 47.
Yeah.
Before they have the fire.
so anyway, that's.
We
just-
can't, I mean, I think that the problem is that you have to start to set some boundaries and say we can't afford it. I mean, that it's very, very cut and dry. So it's not that we don't want all of the things, but
Yeah,
if it's going to be 50,
No,
What, now you're. I think we were getting, there was a little bit of pushback and there were some questions being applied. What is it that we can do, or what is our role in approving a budget or an assessment from the fire EMS?
I mean, you have a vote. So it's just like anything else in the world, you have one vote. So you can be outvoted. So if you voted no and everyone else voted yes, you would have to go with the majority. You'd have to go with the majority. So
Majority of.
other district
the
members.
district.
Okay.
So, I mean, everyone tries to get along. So what you would hope would be like what Carl said. Could you negotiate something different? We'd like to work with you. Could you, bring it down a number? Could you work something out a little different? Could you move it to a capital? I'm really not understanding why they can't put the $100,000 into capital, or maybe they did. Maybe I'm mistaken. I'm not really sure. I don't know.
Not sure.
I don't understand.
I'm not really, or why the village may not fund a bigger portion of that themselves. I don't know. I think this is gonna be a bigger topic as we go forward. They're gonna keep growing and we're gonna keep getting smaller, it's gonna be a discussion going forward. But until that time, I think the problem is just that. Yeah.
How is the allocation today? Village, Oregon, Brooklyn, that allocation, is that based on population?
So if you go to, you can look at, the Brooklyn one is in your packet. You can kind of see how it is in the budget. It's on page, 62 and 63.
Oh, because what I'm assuming is if it's based on population,
So you kind of have. like-
Oregon's growing and we are staying the same or falling, our percentage
Should go down.
should be going down.
It's kind of a combination of like this equalized value and population. So it's, I
Okay.
think it's, and like for Brooklyn, the fire district is based on equalized value.
Yes.
And then the EMS is based on population. So Oregon Fire would have to, I'll get it to you how they do it. It's always a little bit of a mystery.
I think Belleville is
Yeah,
per
I
capita
think
for
that's-
both.
Is it, yeah.
So
For Belleville, I don't know about Brooklyn.
For like about like
I
this.
know, it's teeny, we're like less than
Yeah.
20.
again, our percentage of the overall budget should be going down.
Shouldn't be getting incrementally larger.
Yeah,
And
okay.
it shouldn't even be staying the same
Should be.
because the village is growing.
And it's growing very rapidly.
Yes. So ours should be
And
getting.
that's why they need a bigger, better fire station.
There's a chicken or an egg going on there, for sure. You know,
It-
they wanna be able to approve bigger projects. In order to do that, they need the fire protection. And in order to have the fire protection, they need a new firehouse.
I don't like.
Now, yes, yeah.
So when I talked to Kathy the other day, we were talking about that same topic you're bringing up. And Kathy said to me, she's like, you know, do you wonder, so there's something they're called TIF districts and she goes, do you think they're taking their TIF districts out of how they're charging?
We should find out.
Cause you would think that and we're
Yes.
kind of like, why is the math not mathing?
Yeah.
So we will, I do think that maybe there should be another meeting and we should have the math
Yes.
for us. And
real
yes,
thing.
I actually see that because there is a little bit of like the math not mathing and we were talking about that and just having a little bit more because our population is going down. It's kind of weird, but it's going down. Not tons, but a few.
Yeah, it's.
But even if it stays the same and the village
It's not
grows,
growing, right.
our percentage should be higher.
And the percentage has to go up.
All right,
Okay, let's move on from that one. And so item 7 is on page 67.
this is just, so Barks at the Park is gonna sell some. It's a day, it's a temporary liquor license for, so you just have to approve, that they can sell liquor at, Anderson Park for a day.
It's a 1-day event.
67.
6, 7. 6, 7.
Yeah.
It's Carbon 4 Brewing.
This is Wisconsin.
Just the one vendor.
Yeah,
Yeah, carbon, K4.
they'll set up a tent inside of the park near the park entrance and selling cans on the premise.
So they're looking for a motion to approve the Carbon 4 Brewing LLC retail sales application.
I move that we approve the application for carbon 4 for the Barks for Parks on September 21st.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
10 seconds that, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a vote on this, I suppose. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no, and motion passes and the application is approved.
Where's the date on that thing? 21st of September.
September 21st. It's on page 68.
It's just wonderful.
In the middle of page 68 is
I'm on
the
the wrong
event
page.
specific information. When it happens, the hours.
Is there one for?
Yeah, 1 to 4.
And is, and what else is going on there that would be appropriate with beer drinking? Hate to sound, I'm just curious, like.
It's in
is this a-
it's in Wisconsin, it's in a park.
It's like a kid family friendly place, right?
Well, so's the state fair, so.
I
yeah.
get that.
No,
I totally get
I
that.
totally understand your point.
I just,
I totally understand your point.
Bikers, like,
there must.
A lot of biker
It's
and-
more of an adult.
There are groups that go bar hopping on bikes. I don't have to be one of those.
Yeah.
But there are-
I think that's the difference between having it in Anderson Park
Uh-huh.
and having it at the dog park.
Yeah, I think it is dog park centric.
I think
It's
there's,
Park centric.
Right.
yes.
And I was there last year.
Cause I was thinking about the little ferry gates and all the little stuff. for the
Oh, yeah.
kids.
Yeah. I think that's why they're having it where they are and what it is, what it
Okay.
is.
Okay.
They're kind of, the dog park is a little more adult
Oriented,
focused,
it
oriented
is.
than
It
the
totally-
park
It
in
is,
general.
it is, and I didn't
We are there a lot.
make that
and it's,
connection.
Yeah,
It is.
More adults.
It's almost all adults.
yeah.
Well, you have to drive there to take the
Yes.
dogs.
Right.
So
Yeah.
there's usually someone who's old enough to drive. Yeah,
We're sober enough.
well,
That's tongue in cheek.
Okay, let's move on to item number 8, and that is a resolution, we covered this already, but page 71. And this is where we transferred the money, the 4,800 for the
Yeah.
park committee.
So I went out to the Scotts Town Station and to get a resolution that kind of would follow what you guys had decided about transferring the money. And the way that the resolution kind of like actually was worded is it was kind of worded like more like after the money had sort of been spent, sort of that's how it read more to me, like, oh, there's kind of this deficit. So in this case, really, the money hasn't yet been spent, although I don't think I have a doubt that the money will get spent. So it's sort of, if anyone read it and felt like you thought that the money has been spent, it hasn't actually been spent. But I'm intending the money would be spent this year.
It seems like it seemed like,
Yeah. So just want to make that clear.
I think it seemed like they had a list, like the committee, like Dave and committee had a list, a shopping list of things they wanted to do.
Yes, yeah.
And Dave's being very, very progressive on that and very, it's been very good.
Yeah, so.
So what we're doing here then is a budget amendment. And we'll need to do a roll call vote, but before we get to the roll call vote, we need a motion to pass resolution number 01 dash.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not 23 either.
It's 24.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna amend that. That's resolution 01/2024. I apologize for that.
You've got 24 in the next line,
Opposite
so
you on there.
it's not in on this.
Yeah, I will amend that. And Carl, I'll send that to you to sign once I update that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry about that.
I'll move to approve resolution 01-2024
I'll
to
second.
move the funds to the park expense account to be spent by the end of this year.
I would second that.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Sorry, Jennifer,
I'm Carl Walzer,
yes.
Lori Fitzgerald,
yes.
Arlen Kai,
Yes.
Steve Jernigan,
Yes.
and Tim LeBrun.
Yes.
All right, motion passes, thank you. And then park reports.
I was not there again because of the joint meeting. I was on the same night. I know from emails that Dave has sent out, there's a lot going on as far as all of us are responsible for one park to walk through once a week and looking at needs and possible needs and I know they're in that process right now. They're still in the process of coming up with the plan that the county's gonna put together. So there's a lot of pieces that are out there floating and I can't say that since I wasn't at the last meeting, it'll be good finally put those all together and then finally have a list of something. Okay, we're gonna do this and then this. And that's what we're working on.
Super.
And under that same topic, we still need to get together with Steve Root to talk about those different funds and what the genesis of each of those funds might be, just to get some historical perspective. Steve's been on vacation, and when did you expect he'll be back?
You know, I don't know. I sent an email to him, but I have not heard back from him. So, I mean, I went back and I don't know if you saw the email, but I basically put together like, is a 40-year history of, you know, annual reports of all of the funds. And in that 40 years, you can see it's very little difference.
So.
Okay, yeah,
So-
there's a 40-year history of like annual reports of park funds, and there's hardly any difference in the amount of funding. you know, during the time that we were looking at, so Lori did some research on the Lamont.
Yes,
She found a date. I was able to go back in the minutes. We found where it was written that the Lamont Fund was actually the,
Bicentennial Park.
yes,
It was
Bicentennial Park.
specifically for that.
Bicentennial Park. It wasn't really, there was no, but basically the funds was that it can be used. It's Bicentennial Park. There's really nothing really all that spectacular. It can be
Okay.
used. There's no terms. But we found it. So,
Yep, that's great.
and then it's, but in terms of all the other money. Okay, so anytime anyone wanted to build a house, the town's like, great, we're gonna charge you a park fee. It's $600, $500, $200. Yeah, all right, great. We're gonna put it into an account. Put it into account, put it into account, put it into account, put it into account. Well, imagine doing that over time. That's what they did. Okay, so then what happened is all these municipalities did it. Okay, so at some point in time, these lobbying groups for builders went and said, listen, we're getting nickeled and dimed by these municipalities that are charging these fees.
yeah,
Can you stop it? So they lobbied and they said, hey, you gotta stop it. So if you remember what we're doing now with why we're not charging the impact fees is because they lobbied and said, stop doing that.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, we can't do that anymore. But we were doing that for years and years and years. That's how come we have all this money. It's just accumulated over time. We didn't, it's,
and during that time, we just put it through our operating budget, any work that had to be done, it
We
never
just
got
did.
drawn out of those park funds, yeah. We just, it's just part of operating budget.
and we didn't do much anyways in there. You know, I mean, we just, as you can tell, there's been a lot of neglect in some of our parks. We haven't really had a whole lot done in them. So you can go back and you can look at all of our minutes and you can see where they charged people. And I remember people being angry that they were getting charged these park fees.
Mhm.
And we just collected the money. And you can
Exactly.
see, yeah.
Unless we have a policy specific to it, and we don't have a policy today.
And the policy at the time was, we're just gonna collect a park fee.
Yeah.
And at the time, I don't think there was, and I think that eventually it caught up when people started to say, not the town specific, but in general, you know, people were saying they're collecting it and it's not always being used for the purpose, us being one of them. We didn't have a use for it. We were just collecting it. So I think the idea was, well, it's not tax dollars, right? Because was it tax dollars? It wasn't. It was somebody wants to build a house. If you're wanting to build a house, what do you want me to give you? Okay, fine. I'll give you $500.
Right.
Okay, so that's how we got all of our money.
There's a theme of us collecting money, having money and not spending it.
Not allocating it, not earmarking.
You're not spending it for the purpose it was collected for.
We should.
How many of these funds do we have? A bunch.
Those,
So the park fund, so you have that Lamont fund, which was the bicentennial, which we've now.
And there's even a bench there with the name of Dallas's wife on it.
oh, nice.
So we have that, we have these park funds, which, you know, the names have changed and the accounts, you know, have moved, but essentially they're kind of the same who they've gone through, whether it's been town park or bicentennial. Then it's not really earmarked to either park, because as you can look at over the 40 years where the money has flown in and out of, they probably just where the interest rate was the highest was where it probably got moved to at some point in time. It never really was any point in time where it was at any particular time. So I don't think the only one, like, we've had money that probably has flown in from some like grants that we've gotten. So different grants have kind of come in. But I don't think the money is really I don't, there's nothing,
Not really restricted, right?
no.
And so
Other than
we
the
got an
spirit.
effort going. Lori's doing some of that, it sounds like. We're talking to Steve, get some perspective. But we're working toward consolidating these funds into earmark, park specific.
Yep.
Improvements, upkeep, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's perfect.
Yeah, that we can and will use, and we're starting with $4,800
Yeah.
right now.
And yeah, I do think the process that we're going through
Yes.
gets us to a comfortable place in saying we can do that.
Yes,
We can
I
spend,
agree.
we can spend.
We're aware of it.
Yes.
Trying to use it.
It seems like a lot of money. It's not a ton of money. It's, it's not a huge amount of money. It's just money we collected over time.
I think it makes sense to ask for that slide. Because the parks are enhancing the experience of living in. Fort. I mean, I think that the original intention,
The park fee.
yeah, seems reasonable to me.
Yeah, sure.
You're getting this lovely rural home and have access to the countryside.
I think you can, I think you can do it, whatever floats your boat.
So that effort's ongoing, but we're gonna bring it to a head here in the next,
And,
if not the next meeting, the following.
and you're suggesting working with some kind of a structure for budgeting park work in a consistent, because that's one of the goals of the committee now. Just come up with a more coherent, proactive budget, and then working with knowing we could use these funds. And it sounds like a capital improvement kind of deal.
Which may lead back to a park fee.
Yeah.
in a building. It may,
Well, yeah.
but at least it'll be specific and we won't wonder, how does that money end up there? How long has it been there? Where is it supposed to go? Who's Dallas Lamont?
Well, it's not just a park fee, I guess originally they were called impact.
Yes.
Yes.
So they were originally called park fees, then they became impact fees, but they are originally park fees, then they became impact fees. And truly, today, these impact fees need to be used in 7 years. So they should be collecting, yes, they should be the impact fees that probably have been there for, 50, 60 years that,
Yeah.
we have today. They should be things that you're cycling through more often, which would make sense.
Yeah.
But,
Right, so we're getting there. Good. That sounds great. Anything else on parks? All right, let's move on to the torque. And
Okay.
there's a,
There's a little.
we got 72.
little memo on page 72. And there's not much to report. They worked their normal shifts on Saturdays. There were no major weather events apparently that required extra hours. And the only note there is that I believe I don't know if it was Jennifer asked us or if it was discussed at a meeting. The staff will try to put together some kind of a budget to go into our deliberations. Again, that we've run into some things where we've been talking about the fire service too. We have these extra weather events.
Yeah.
And that service was very much in demand for that. So when we put in our request, maybe we won't do 40%, was it 40%?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
we should have some kind of
Yes.
cushion
Sure.
because, then you need extra staff and so on. But we'll try to get something started so that we'll have something in the budget.
So we don't have that much more to go, but I would be okay with about 5 minutes.
It's okay with
I'm
me.
kind of fidgeting. Okay.
I'm just pitching because of that.
Oh,
That we gotta, that 5 minutes might be great for getting rid of the glare.
Oh, yeah, and
It's
like,
really-
just in that, yeah, because it is getting dark sooner.
Well, but right now, this is,
Yeah, I'm over here and I have a thing.
Bill doesn't write it into targets.
Conserve on here.
yes, we,
She's having,
I can bring it in whenever you want me to do.
it's not.
So otherwise you're okay with it?
Yeah.
She's having her school
I think
community.
this one is nice.
Oh, yeah, sure, just let me know, I'll bring it.
It's little ends of
Okay.
I'm not sure, I think, I think she'll be at least a couple of weeks. Well, you were what, months now? How many months were you not?
Came out.
Hold on, see, I'll-
Everybody knows, but nobody's control. You know, it's just.
Well, you're out of the country. We don't have our cops running around the block, watching the kids.
How's it hurt? Has it been much early voting?
You know, we have been slammed this week. I don't know, like, just like everyone just all of a sudden just like woke up. I don't know if it's the news or what. It's just like,
Maybe they're energized.
I guess so.
I
It's
think
just like,
that's it.
Steve, you could just stand
Right here?
Stay right there, or sit there, some little chair.
Oh,
That is
yeah,
blinding.
that's,
Can we get?
well, next
permission
meeting,
blinds?
next meeting won't be like that, because the sun's gonna be a little different
Yeah.
position.
I don't eat out in Oregon, but did you guys just hear it's like, so Senior Pepper's closed,
Yes,
Ready Set closed.
yes.
Firefly like has
Cut
like,
their hours.
yes,
They've cut their hours. It's. a lot
Ready-
of it's
Ready, Set,
staff
closed?
issues.
Yes, staffing issues.
I can't believe Firefly.
Well, they didn't,
Yeah, they did.
When?
2 o'clock they shut down.
Oh, I didn't know that, 'cause I'm never, I've been doing a lot, never.
And they went to, yeah, no sit down, no inside service on Sunday.
At where?
Are we talking fire? No. Sunday night, it's sad, that-
Or no room.
No food. No food.
That's weird, boy, there's, that place is.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think they're having a, and you would think
there's about 10 people working
that
there
they
every day.
would kind of pace themselves because suddenly there are restaurant workers from 2 different restaurants who aren't gonna have jobs.
That's true.
You'd think they'd be able to absorb some.
So Senior Peppers is, they're closing, because they were down for a while, then they were
Yes.
back,
Right.
and then,
I didn't realize they've been in business 17 years.
Yeah.
oh jeez.
and then Ziggy's is doing, there's
They
something.
moved.
But there's another business, I saw a big flag there.
There's another Mexican restaurant going in there.
So,
I think that's crazy. I think that's crazy.
And so they may be picking up all the employees from Senior Peppers. I
but
cannot
you said the
imagine.
ready, you said.
Ready Set.
Closing?
It's gone.
Yeah, I was in there yesterday.
They closed yesterday, I
Was it
think.
yesterday? Oh, then it was, I was in there.
Something closed on the 5th.
I stopped in for coffee yesterday. I just stopped.
Are you thinking Kickback Cafe?
Oh, I'm thinking,
They didn't.
oh, okay,
They didn't
okay, oh,
But
Yeah.
okay.
Four, so that.
Already set, right, that's 3 businesses that have been in it.
And I was
Restaurants
from
now.
there doing.
Yeah.
Out there doing it because. when
They're not.
meeting,
Hardly.
They're not
There's
doing.
never, the only time they're really getting business, it seems like, is Monday when Firefly's closed.
Well, and if
Or
I
kickback.
thought, that it was good to have another coffee shop here,
It is,
because Firefly gets kind of intense sometimes.
but you know, then again, they don't have a kitchen there, and they'll heat up a piece of quiche, or they have a little bit of this. You're not gonna make a lot of money by selling a cup of coffee.
No.
Ready Set closed on Sunday.
Oh,
Because I actually was there yesterday morning to get a cup of coffee, and they were open. So, anyway. Oh, right, no, I'm sorry, I'm being kidded. Pardon me. Yeah, you're supposed to stay standing there in front of the. That's too bad, there's a woman I know real well, a teacher, in middle school. Oh, that's the husband is one of the.
All right, everybody all set? So the recess has ended and the meeting will come to order. I'm here on item number 11, the Plan Commission.
So I'll just kind of start with how we're gonna handle the meeting. So we're gonna do a joint meeting on Tuesday, August 20th. So this is going to be very new for the town. Cups or conditional use permits have to be handled in a very specific way. It's quasi judicial. So we're gonna have our first sort of joint plan commission town board. We're gonna start the meeting off with hearing from the Valkyrie Farms This is next to the parking lot of the,
Swamp, huh?
yeah, Rotary Bike Trail off of Fish Hatchery. We're gonna start then, and the notice has gone out. That's gonna be in your packet. We are then going to hear their rezone. So it's gonna be very kind of convoluted. So they have to rezone the property first. Because the rezone has to happen before they can get the conditional use permit. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But they also have to rezone to pull out, create the new lot.
Exactly. So they can't get a conditional use permit until they rezone the property. So until the board approves the rezone, they can't get the conditional use.
And creating that lot.
Exactly. So they have to do the land division, the rezone before they can even do it. So, and then on top of that, we're also going to be doing the, when we did the comprehensive land use plan, we have to do some of those blanket rezones.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be doing that.
The ones that Brian talked about.
Exactly, exactly. We talked about that already. He came in and did that presentation on, and then we're gonna add, and I'll talk about that gentleman right there in a minute. We're gonna add that to it as well, okay? So how it's gonna work is we're gonna have the public hearing, so we're gonna let the public speak. Anybody who's here who wants to give some input, we're gonna do some input. So that conditional use permit we talked about on page 73, we're gonna follow that where they'll have 3 minutes to talk. And we're gonna then go into where we're first going to have the plan commission make a recommendation on the rezone, the land division. We're gonna have the town board then make the approval. Then we're gonna go back and we're gonna then deal with the CUP. So we're gonna do the land division, the rezone first. Okay, then we're gonna go back and then deal with the CUP second.
So what's it getting rezoned to? From rural, single family to?
It is getting rezoned. It's on page 75.
Preservation.
Oh,
It
yes.
is getting rezoned, yeah, from FP to RR2.
Oh.
And I don't have the whole section in here. The CU, there's more information. If you go to the website, the whole packet is out there where you can see the different sections that are getting rezoned. They're kind of having to expand some area of where there's a house on one portion and then the other portion where the other house is has to kind of expand because there's some buildings and things that need to go out. So I think what they're doing is are they taking down the existing house and rebuilding it? Is that what they're doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, but now what you haven't mentioned is why are we having a conditional use permit in the first place? And that's something that I think needs to be.
I don't know if I want to talk about it because I think we're not supposed to talk
I
about
know,
it, so
but
that's why I'm trying to avoid.
But I think that has to be clear
In that meeting.
in that meeting.
Yes, we'll talk about it at the meeting. We'll talk about that. Yes, we'll talk about that. You can read it on here that they're going to be doing it's a transit or tourist lodging. I think that that's such a hard time. Somebody called me and asked me about it. Essentially, it would be, I think, like an Airbnb is what that means for the concept of that.
Wasn't there application in the last packet
We've
or two
seen it,
packets
we've
ago?
seen it.
Because we saw the
It
full,
would have been,
we saw the
yes.
full application.
Sure.
But I just can't remember which month.
The CSM that you might have seen, or some of that may have had to, there was some buildings, and that was what Arlen, we were worked on.
Yes.
So there might be some adjusting of the CSM just because of the lines needing to be a little bit farther away from some of the buildings, but that all should be.
Because of setbacks and things like that.
Mhm.
And that they have the right size lot.
Yeah, so the CUP there's like, is it 13 or is it 11? Question. The CUP, is there 11 questions that they have to meet, or is it 13? There's a set of questions, and you'll see that in that packet that they have to answer. The county already has that done. When you look at the packet, that will all be ready. That will all be provided to you in that packet ahead of that August 20th meeting. And you'll have all of the input from staff. When I say staff, that's the Dane County zoning staff that have already reviewed it. You'll have all of their staff review. They've already looked at it. They've already given their input.
And the conditions, I haven't seen any list of conditions yet.
And the staff, if you haven't seen it, it's been sent out. I'll make sure you've seen it. They've sent it out and they have their list of conditions.
This is what Dane County has, and then we need to be.
If you wanted
If
your
we,
own
if
set.
we want to amend that list, add or
Yes.
subtract.
I-
It's everything from thou shalt not make a lot of noise with drunken people
Oh, yeah.
out in the yard.
Yeah.
No beer cans on Fish Country Road. It's,
So that would be that. So any questions? So it's the first time we're kind of doing that. So I think once we get through that, then number 12 on page 75, then the board will. So the board's kind of there just to kind of get you guys through this. So typically, normally, the plan commission would hear these, then it would come back to the board, to the next board meeting. This is just sort of expediting it. It's all getting done on the same night, which is just kind of making you guys sort of come for that meeting, but it's a way to make these CUP processes go. This is the way the county would like this to be held. So.
And now we are adding to that the
Yes.
same process for Mr. Rivera.
No, Mr. Rivera is not. The CUP, we're doing this process just for the CUP, but we're adding this town of Oregon and we'll add him into it only because they're here and why not just add them together to
Okay.
it. We normally wouldn't do it. We normally do it where they'd see the plan commission and then the next month they come to the town board. But we're just putting them all in here because why not? Because then we can get it all done with in the same night.
So let's set this CUP thing aside for a moment.
Yeah.
Now, can we talk about the Rivera thing?
So let's bring up Riviera. Okay. So,
I know where that is.
okay, so the town of Oregon has subdivisions.
Yes.
There are what would be called lines that were drawn outside of subdivision, okay? And these lines that were drawn outside of subdivisions were sort of kind of these areas that could be divided into lots that could be 2 acres. Okay,
And these are exceptions. These are.
right, because in our old land use map, I'm going to tell you they were blue because they were blue in our old land use map. They were blue. So what that meant is they could be made into 2 acre lots because they were blue. So this lot here and this lot here were this was one lot. This was one lot.
Long time ago.
A long time ago,
Yes.
one lot. And see how it's next to this subdivision?
Yes.
It was a 6 acre lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was in blue, okay? So he comes in and he's like, I would like to make this. And it was like, okay, well then the town realized, wait a second, you are blue, you can do it. And you can but you're only allowed to make 3 2 acre lots, okay? That's what you're allowed. So the gentleman's like, cool, I'll do it. I'm gonna make 3 2 acre lots. So the town said, fine, you're gonna do it. He came back to the town and he said, guess what? He's like, yeah, I don't wanna do that anymore. I don't want to have 2 acre lots because I can't sell them and I have a buyer who wants to buy my lot, but he wants to combine it. And there is some truth that having 3 2-acre lots, some people don't want that. They want bigger lots. And you have to share a driveway because you cannot have multiple driveways onto County Highway MM. Now, that's not, that town doesn't control access onto County Highway MM, the county does, okay? So, and you can't have more than one access. So they came back and they said, we're going to make that into just 2 lots. That's how we want it. The town here said, that's great, but you can't go back. You cannot go back. You cannot go back to having that be 3
2-acre lots.
3 2-acre lots again. The reason is you can't recombine lots. So the town has said that lots have to be 4 acres to make them into 2-acre lots. We don't allow you to say, hey, I have a 2 or I have a 3-acre lot here. I'm gonna buy 2 acres from my neighbor over there, and I'm gonna take my 3 acres here. I'm gonna buy 2 acres from my neighbor over there. Now I have 5 acres. So now I have more than 4 acres, so I get another split.
Are they contiguous?
Right, they can be contiguous, yeah.
I mean, they should, I would think they'd have to be contiguous.
Yeah, they can be contiguous, but the idea is you can't create splits. We've never allowed people to create splits. We've never said, oh, hey, you can create a split. That's not been a thing. You either have a split or you don't have a split. We don't allow you to make a split. It's just always been like 1994 has been kind of the date that's been set. You either have it or you don't have it. You're not allowed to create or combine or do it. You can create a subdivision by creating a plat. You could have 35 acres, and we know the splits because we've detailed out who has them. You could, something like this, if you have something in this area and you have 6 acres, you could do that. So the town put a deed restriction and they said, just so you know, you can never go back. But we couldn't put a deed restriction on it because when they were doing it, they were doing it by CSM. So we put it as a deed notice. Well, when they came back through, the deed notice didn't get put through. But again, neither one of these lots are 4 acres. So the town doesn't allow a 4-acre, you have to have 4 acres to have another.
You cannot create a 4-acre lot by robbing some from your neighbor.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. You cannot create a 4-acre lot by taking something else and then creating another split. That hasn't been what the town has allowed.
Right, and it's very specific in the comprehensive plan to that effect.
I had it pulled up here is what the specific wording we have in our plan. And what he's saying, but it's like, it says, changes in reconfiguration and ownership do not trigger new allotment of potential future dwelling units. So you're not, you can't create new units. You
have to work with what's already.
What does it say about Brian Standing though? He was claiming that.
So 2 different people own these lots.
Right.
And the person who bought this back lot ended up just never putting a house on it.
Right.
So Mr. Riviera bought the house, one parcel has a house, the person never bought a house. So then he buys this and he's like, well, I want to put another deed notice on it, says you can't do it. He buys it, he decides he's gonna rechange the lots and he gets rid of the deed notice. He doesn't have 4 acres, he can't create another. He keeps saying, well, I have 6 acres.
Yeah, where's his 6 acres?
Yep.
The combined of all the lots, of the 2 lots.
With that green and with that purple, that rectangle right there with that, is that what you're saying?
That rectangle is 6 acres.
So he owns this one that has a house on it, right?
And that's 4.
No.
It's not 4.
It's 3.961.
Right,
It's 3.961.
Okay.
right.
So
And
that
then he owns this one.
Okay.
Okay, that's right here.
You bought those separate, you didn't buy those at the
And
same
it's-
time, correct?
No, he bought them at the same time from two different people, but the town doesn't allow you, this one has a building, he can build on that. So he can build on that,
Mm-hmm.
but he wants another one.
Cause he wants to combine the 2.19 with the 3.96,
And create another one.
Got it, okay, and that's what you can't.
which is 6 acres.
Yes,
Yes,
But
plus,
he's saying.
I wanna
I
create
see-
another one.
I see what
And
you're
you
saying.
have one here, you have a house on here,
Yes,
and he's saying, but I want another one.
okay, I get it now.
He's saying.
and I've got 6 acres. I want 3 2-acre lots for 3 different homes. Ideally.
The idea is that that's great, and if we let you have it, the idea though is that we have to make sure we're letting other people have that as well. So are we letting other people have it? And if so, then we need to make it clear that other people in the town of Oregon have that right as well. So it's sort of like saying, is that the direction that the town wants to go?
Right.
Because it's not been the direction that the town has not allowed people to rob from another neighbor to say, hey,
To make their own.
To draw new,
a new,
Lines.
a new split.
No,
He has the ability, if I have a 3-acre lot and I said, oh, great, I wanna take a few acres from my neighbor so that we can create another split. That hasn't been the way that the town has operated.
does the town have that latitude?
We can change a plan and allow it.
That's, okay,
We can, if the town wanted to change the plan and make that clear, you can allow it.
what's the downside of not doing, I mean, so what's the downside of allowing this? Then make the change so you can.
It's a
combine-
slippery slope, because then you can allow
yeah.
others in the town
Right,
to come back.
but I'm just saying that's,
Also a concern about driveways there.
Yeah.
It's a treacherous intersection there.
but that's another issue,
There, but that was part of that, that's a separate issue
yes.
whereby you could approve this in principle, but this particular situation would have some extra problems with.
And that's where the county would typically step in, because it's on a county road.
And so for this, the county would allow, because it
Sure,
can't
sure,
allowed
sure.
originally three, that would be the maximum,
Mhm.
3 households. That would
3
be the-
2-acre lots.
Right, that would be the maximum. But the town has not allowed because it is not 4 acres, it fell under. And unfortunately for Mr. Riviera, he didn't do this, but the person before him created these lot size. The town never forced that owner to create a lot size under 4 acres.
But it was created and it fell off the
Right,
4-acre
right.
minimum.
Right. And it's unfortunate that that property owner did it, but he did. And so he's upset because he keeps wanting to say, but
But it was,
He was told, wasn't he told by the previous owner that he could do this?
that's beside the point.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
that was
Right.
part of the problem.
and the problem is it said right on the deed notice when he bought the house, that, I understand you didn't read the deed notice or you didn't see it on the second page. I get it.
but. He had the ability, there's the paperwork, that's one of those.
And it's public record.
Yep.
And the deed notice said,
It has to remain 2 lots.
okay,
And so, and it's since changed, but the town has always said it has to be greater than 4 acres. In fact, in our new plan, it's actually, I can actually pull that up because
Yeah.
you can actually read it. Because our new plan actually even makes it even more,
More limiting.
well, no, it actually just points it out even at a greater,
Clarity.
clarity,
Yeah.
exactly, yes. Right, I gotta go to land use issues, sorry. We talk about this, I talk about these blue areas because the blue areas are these areas outside of the subdivisions that we talk about.
And a subdivision in our case is defined as a platted
Yes, exactly,
subdivision.
exactly. So that's these opportunities for redevelopment. So there are 49 parcels in the traditional subdivision planning area that are 4 acres or larger in area. Redivisions of these parcels by certified survey map into 2-acre lots is possible, provided new lots conform to siting, road access, environmental and design criteria. So this is actually saying, hey, listen, there are 49 parcels we've identified that are outside of these traditional subdivision areas.
Adjacent.
Adjacent, yes, that are 4 acres. So that means they have to be 4 acres. Are identified as 4 acres. And they can possibly become 2-acre lots.
So basically, because the previous owner said, no, I'm not gonna do this, that's set in stone unless it gets unless open it up. I understand this situation, why he wants to do it, but but the idea that he was told something else and he didn't follow through with, like,
Documenting it.
let's take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now it comes back to us.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to some of the hypothetical things that
Yeah.
we're going over. There is a property up on Purcell, it's about 17 acres, that used up all the splits. And the person was trying to
Oh, yeah.
redevelop it. And it has been pretty much shut down that it cannot, it can only use for ag land. And that it cannot be turned into something, some other property or some other use.
Or
Now, a hypothetical here is it backs onto Raven Oaks. And if that, are we on that right one?
I don't really, I mean, I don't know who the
I'm-
current owner, I don't know who the current owner is now, so I was having a hard time
I
trying to
think it-
remember who it was.
Keep going. I think, isn't that,
Is it that one right there? That bigger one? The bigger one? That one?
no,
right
the one
there?
to the left?
Does it have anything on it? Doesn't it have a barn?
I think it does.
Well, whatever it was adjacent to a subdivision. And the intent was that if if a couple of the creative people in that subdivision
16.5 acres? 16.54 acres? That sound about right? That was even off.
I may have picked the wrong property. But if somebody was trying to be a little creative and there was no more splits available on that parcel, that the backyards of one or more of the
Raven Oaks.
come in there and suddenly have a 4, 5, 6 acre parcel and then come to us and say,
Want to split?
give me 2. And that was what was. If we start having that recombined thing.
Yeah.
It's going to open that up. And that was not deemed an acceptable thing. So if is that the parcel that was? That,
I'm not 100% positive, but
anyway, I was.
area
It
is
was
very
described-
close to where.
It was described to me that it was backing onto Raven Oaks.
Yeah, it absolutely does. Yeah, it absolutely does. I'm fairly sure that it's close to
does,
that area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so I'm assuming.
okay, well, there's a couple of other parcels that are divisible.
So that answers the question, why wouldn't we want to do that here?
Correct.
That's what you're,
That was one of the,
here's an example, what could happen? That's why we don't want to do
Yeah.
that here.
don't want to open up that can of worms to creative subdividing.
I mean, it's not, you don't know how often it's going to be used or not used, it's just the idea of that was been a policy, so you would have to sort of kind of make it clear. And I think with our comprehensive plan, we've been trying to get that clarity every single time we've tried to do it.
Can I play devil's advocate though for a minute? Because earlier in this meeting, we were talking about how the town hasn't grown at all. And in the absence of any interest in, like, say, us doing a big major development, what would be the downside of smaller onesie twosie type?
Well, we have 250 divisions available in the town. We do have new lots that have been created. So there's new residences. Just the fact that we're aging. Town of Oregon is aging. And they're going to start aging out, and there's going to be selling it to young families. The population will grow again. Just, I think we're in the cycle of a neighborhood that is old.
Yeah,
And
look what,
contributing to it.
yeah, look when those subdivisions were created, Raven Oaks.
71.
Yeah.
Early 70s.
That's up our, what's the one off of, between Glenway and Hillcrest? That's gotta be a similar age.
So Windridge?
Windridge,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
Similar time.
Came a little bit after.
Yeah.
It's before 94.
Those were examples of period in time where we grew.
Now
Again.
we're at the baby boom and the explosion, and we grew population wise. We have more properties. We have a fair amount of value that has grown according to the assessors. So
Grown in value.
the value of property values, but it's the improvements, not the, and the the lots. They're paying for the farmers not paying the taxes.
Sure. But I think that's a fair question. You know,
It's
We're
a
not
bigger, it's a
growing.
bigger question than just the Rivera property. I mean, just the.
No, and that was pretty much hashed through
I'm sure, yes.
on the plan commission that we have plenty of potential lots.
That particular parcel though, I don't know, that had been for sale for a long time, and I'm not sure that, I don't know about that location or what's wrong.
Oh,
That particular. It's been for sale.
the Purcell property.
No.
no, the one
Oh,
on
the
the
Rivera.
Yeah, that's been for sale for a long time.
Well, it's right on the highway.
And I don't know why you would want two lots. Sometimes I understood why they made it two lots. Because I would think someone would want it would make it more valuable, I would think.
Sure.
To have it only be one lot, there only be two home sites back there. But I don't know anything though, so.
We looked at that property about before the Riveras bought it. And the father lived in that house, and that house is, I swear that house is 20 feet from MM. I mean, it is really close to MM,
Yeah,
really close to MM. The bedroom window is, I swear it's 20 feet off the shoulder. And originally, the father was hoping his son would build on that back property to take care of him.
Oh,
The father ended up with, this is what he told me, the son who sold it told me his father ended up in,
can I just
Care.
interrupt, sorry to interrupt, but we are recording.
Oh, yeah.
So if we venture into like inside baseball, personal stories.
Yeah,
that's-
okay.
That's probably not a great way to go.
all right. I agree. I should have.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Let's do one more minute unless we're good on the plan commission. Arlen, any other plan commission related things?
We didn't have a meeting last
Oh,
week.
we didn't have a meeting, that's right. Okay,
That made it very easy.
okay. All right, then you're up next anyway with Logan County.
Okay, you have the let's see. there's two items in here. There's minutes of the meeting. We have, now we are working through the 5-year plan again to update that. There is a general chicken and egg type of thing as to, well, how much can we do? Well, how much money do we have? Can we predict it? And while we took a dive at something in the 250 a year category, the previous plan, we did not spend 250 in 2024. And we have, and as our discussion with the fire department is, we don't know what is going to be the potential budget, but we do have still that 250 plus or minus annual thing that's going to take place. If you have our 37, so we're struggling with what kind of budget are we going to have and what kind of priority are we going to be placing on the roads? We have 37 miles of road. Even if we take one major project, 1 mile of major project a year, we're going to be that's 300,000, 250, 300,000 by the time you haul the gravel on and then do the asphalt as well, raise it, firming up the bed. So it's a very much a chicken and egg thing that the Road and Safety Committee is trying to get a handle on to be able to make worthwhile recommendations. If we're going to be victim to, oops, fire department took all the budget. Or whatever, some other thing, or we can't rob the park fund this year because it's not a consistent, it is not a consistent income stream. So we're going through a number of recommendations, and so we're going to be coming back for the next meeting, hopefully with some ideas for planning. I'm going to be meeting with Abel and Sue. And we're going on Thursday, and we're going to try and hammer together a recommendation, some logic. We took Sue out on the rest of the roads last week before. Yeah, last week, I guess, before you took off through the event, the Dakotas. So we have our work ahead of us. We don't have a thing there except for doing a marking of the roads. That there's a recommendation to be having 4 roads with divider marks on. And that to be recommend for the 2025 budget. And that's in the budget range of $7,400 for the 6.7 miles. Excuse me. But since Netherwood Road is wider and has just been wedged, you go on there, it is looking good. If you have it, it would just happen yesterday.
Oh, okay. It was yesterday.
Yeah, I think it was just yesterday. Just yesterday. And it was it is wider because way back when there was a grant that was applied for and received to be adding a bike lane. So on one side of the road, there's a X feet for a bike lane, and I think it was on the south side. And check, that was where the sort of a crack it was forming in the road. So if we may want to relook at the number of lanes that are have and maybe add a bike lane from Netherwood, I guess that's sort of up to the board here, but I would think that would be nice to reclaim that bike lane, at least one again. Yep. So that'd be 2 stripes instead of 1 on Netherwood.
And it's wide enough now, it just doesn't have the markings for it.
Is that what you're saying?
Never did have really, oh, and they did too have a marquee at one time, way back when, way long ago. And it faded out faster than
Over 20 years ago.
Yes, oh, that's right, I've been here longer than.
Yes, but I'm gonna say we've been here for 21 years now.
So yes, it was there. And it disappeared. So I'd like to reestablish it.
You might be able to use park funds for that.
I'm sorry?
There was a
I
bike
said you might be able
recreation.
to, might be able to use park funds for that. Park funds for that?
I'm thinking, well, just for that everyone, right? Not necessarily.
For the-
Oh, no, the other one's not wide.
Bike lane. Maybe you could use park funds for that. I think there were grant funds at some point in time for that.
Kind of a thing.
That's what I'm saying is that when you're saying park funds for that
For
is
parking.
Netherwoods bike lane,
Yes.
not any of the other.
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm clarifying that. I think there was a grant money given at some point in time to put that in. And like, if you would look at, there are certain, guides, and Netherwood is in that guide as being a bike friendly. Because there were funds given at some point in time for that being a bike,
Yes, so
so.
if the only thing, recommendation coming out of, or I should say, one of two recommendations that came out of the Road and Safety Committee is the striping.
Right.
Which we would like to include in the 2025 budget.
And we'll talk about that at the next budget.
As the budget comes around, so I don't think it's an action thing at this time,
Not tonight.
but
Yeah, if it's 2025, not correct.
it's 2025, it's not 24.
Yep.
Right. Second thing came out is on page 79, we have a dear resident letter to Echo Valley.
And you suggested an edit to it.
I'm sorry?
You asked for an edit to it.
Yeah, I asked for an edit to it. There was everything I think is great. It's, friends that we did these things, and then there was a comment that there is one particular young gentleman who has a very loud and fast car that is terrorizing the neighborhood in Hillcrest and continues to do so. So here was just a little mild threat there, where the sheriff's department patrols the township. Now, I asked to remove the 1 day per month.
Yeah, that's not too scary. Very scary.
That sounds very unscary,
But you might even be able to predict what day it is.
Yeah. So just say, take it out of there.
That's a good idea.
So that's the edit, and I think the date is supposed to be July 18th. We thought we'd send it, and when we have our meeting, we thought we'd approve it, the committee, and then send it out right around when, it'll come out right when school starts. To remind
great.
people about safety issues and.
So we have work ahead to be getting the master plan going and to send this out.
Sounds great.
And I believe that's about it.
Sounds great. Thank you.
And then- what?
That's good to see. Part of that.
Oh, yes, okay. That's good. What page were you on? Okay, somebody.
And let's see, item 13 is Public Works Report, and you'll see that on page 82. Jenna, anything to say about that?
Oh, 82 is the building inspector.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's not.
I don't
yeah,
have anything for
Sorry,
public works.
I was off by it. Nothing for Public Works. Okay, so yeah, building inspection. 82. Then building committee report. Talk a little bit about model, or is it done?
Yes,
6% done.
yeah, yes.
You're looking for the lock yet?
Stephanie is working on that. She has, reached out to Capital Locks. I don't know if anyone's worked with Capital Locks to try and get a keypad system to come out. And then, we have reached out to, Helmer. I don't know if his first name's Cody Helmer. So there is the ceiling type, the ceiling has leaks in the office. So we know it's leaked because the tiles are stained and the tiles are brand new in our office, in my office. It is in the exact same location that the office leaked before, previously, several years ago. At that time, the whole ceiling fell in. So obviously we need to have it. So he was actually working on a project in the village on that building, the bathroom building across from the post office. So we're waiting for him to come over to come look at the roof. There's also leaking in the restroom for Public Works. So hopefully we'll have him come out and assess what can be done to.
Is that an old leak also, or you don't know?
That leak's been going on for a while as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Ryan had gone up there and there on those, over those two areas, there's a great sagging, so the sheathing's rotting, collecting the water and now it comes. So there, if you've got if it's an area that's sunken, you gotta go out quite a ways to get rid of the rotten sheathing and redo the roof. Unfortunately, it's kind of back out of the way that they don't have to beautifully match the shingles.
So they can do half.
Pardon?
Is it the half, is it, I can't remember what the.
If you-
There is a pitch like this to the road?
If you have the firewall,
Yeah.
so we have, excuse me. We have just our rectangle here.
Yeah.
There is a ridge. And then this goes out to here somewheres.
Ah.
And so the ridge comes here and there's. So the original building was
Oh,
about here. It has a precast concrete deck up there, and then this is wood frame over top of it. Pitch roof.
so we'll keep you updated on what the prognosis is on the,
And it's just inside the firewall in those two locations.
got it.
So we don't know how much up and down is also deteriorated.
Mhm.
so on hold is everything until we find
We'll
out,
sort that out.
until we find out what the roofing issue is.
Yep. You know,
When do we talk about the storage bid or proposal?
We can talk about, we can make our, whenever you guys want. Whenever we want to set a date. Why don't we want to do that by email?
yes, let's do that.
Say it.
Do it by
We'll send an
email?
email around. Yeah, and find a date.
So in. So the town hall or the remodel of the office is, yes, we made the final payment. There's a little bit of painting that I think could be a little bit more touched up in the office. I don't really know if the painters are going to come back or not at this point, but the Public Works office and the storage room, I think that still has to get worked out between what we were gonna move forward
Right.
in terms of size, putting out the shed and.
Oh, here, you had a comment on this, we have the storage room here. And the preliminary budget that came. Yeah, is saying it's 36,000
Where's that?
Those numbers from,
Oh, sure.
Advisory section.
That didn't go to the, I'm not sure the entire board saw that, that just kind of came to the building committee. So you might confuse them if you start talking about that.
yeah, we need to talk about what it is that's needed for that storage room.
Yeah.
As to what the size, so have that on the agenda as to how big. We do have the standards of climate control and environment. So let's go from there.
Yeah, we'll set up a meeting for that.
You get the size squared away, which then goes to a budget.
Okay, anything else building committee related? I don't think so. And then number 16, just a list of future meeting dates and election dates is on here. Jennifer, you all set for next?
Yeah.
Are you using this for the pre-voting?
Yes. So we will, yes, people are early voting. Yes,
And we're doing the test tomorrow, right?
test tomorrow. Yeah. I would say let's plan for the next, maybe the budget work session in August. Let's start planning some dates for like having the November, bring your calendars at that August 15th, and we'll start planning some of the November dates for the budget hearing and things like that. So we'll name out some of those November dates in the calendar.
Anybody have any questions or comments about the list of meeting dates here? Just double check.
I don't think I have the joint date for the Oregon one. That might have been set at the meeting that I missed.
Oh, it's a September, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only one that I don't think I added to that.
That was the 25th.
25th, right.
So we're gonna have a little bit of a problem because that's now gonna conflict with the Brooklyn. If it's the 25th.
And the park committee then.
Yeah, that's what I
Takes
was
a back
confused of when they put that. I already
So-
had it on my calendar for a fire EMS.
Yeah. So we're not gonna be able to do that.
We're not
So
gonna be able to.
we
go
are,
for the-
that's the Brooklyn one. So we can't do both on the same night.
But
That's not gonna work.
what do you think?
I'm sorry, so Brooklyn has their joint meeting on Wednesday, September 25th.
Okay.
And you're telling me that,
Village.
Oregon wants to have theirs on
25th.
the 25th as well.
Yes.
That's not gonna work. So who wants to ask who to change their meeting date?
I can, we had a lot of conversation. We were moving that data around in Brooklyn
Okay,
a lot.
okay. Do
So-
you want me to reach out or do you want to reach out? What do you think is best here? And we've tried to do this before and it does not work on the same night.
No,
No, not even close.
no.
And so what you want is you really want your whole board there because you're voting on the budget. And
As many people as possible
and
at each meeting.
it's too hard to try to.
Well, some of the other participants would have to be affected by this as well, right?
Rutland would be,
Rutland.
Rutland would be involved.
Yeah, so there, it's affecting more than just us.
They're probably gonna wake up and figure it out too at some point.
Well,
Ron was here today, actually, I should have said something to her, but I didn't realize till we're sitting here.
Well,
looking at the
we
date.
didn't have that date yet.
I should have looked at this sooner. Okay, how about I reach out to, I will send an email and I will include you
That'd be great.
on the email.
Thank you.
And I will reach out to Brooklyn and I will include Tim and I will include Don George. And I will ask them if they can possibly consider changing that date. I feel bad because their date was set first. But
Yes,
but if you're saying that date was kind of getting.
Yeah, it was kind of getting moved around because people couldn't make
Make it.
one date or another anyway, and we just landed on that date.
All right, let's shift away from that to the clerk's report. Jennifer?
So I just wanted to include in the packet, page 83 is just the sample ballot for the election on the 13th for August. So probably the most important thing would be just a lot of people are the referendum questions.
Yes.
85 is just, you know, that we share our notices, so polling is open from 7 AM to 8 PM. So after our board of review, that's when our statement of assessment goes out. So page 86 starts, the county helps us file our statement assessment. So that goes to the Department of Revenue. So page 87, and basically through the rest of it, it kind of will go through our statement of assessment. I just thought I would share that with you guys so you can kind of see what the statement of assessment looks like. It would be, maybe most interesting would be page kind of 92, where you'll see where within our, when we talk about our fire districts specifically, the land value, the improvement value, the parcel count that are in our fire districts. Information that I just wanted to share.
Some questions for Jennifer on that? All right, anything else from anyone before we wrap up? Sounds like no. And then without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you. 2 minutes. Sure.
I was approached by Brian Richards, who has been doing research